Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Whenever you choose to watch this, we appreciate it. Today, we're a man short. Our buddy Revis, comrade in arms, is unavailable. So we are joined by Michelle, Barry, and myself. Today, among other things, we're going to talk about the Stand Your Ground law. It's a hot topic right now, what with all the violence and the delivery men being held hostage in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that was some craziness.
It's a lot of craziness. And a nuts and bolts understanding of the Stand Your Ground law is if you, as an individual, are anywhere and you are obeying the law, you have the right to defend yourself from a real or perceived threat to your safety, well-being, and life. And
25.
I believe that there have to be some changes in the Stand Your Ground law because so many times we see people who are the aggressor and basically back someone into a corner where that person has a real and perceived threat to their life and well-being, and they react. The victims tend to not be the ones, the predicate, the action, the initiator in the confrontation. They end up being in a reactive state, and it costs them their life. And I think that the Stand Your Ground law needs to be modified where when a person is the aggressor, they should forfeit their Stand Your Ground rights. Anybody?
I definitely don't believe you should be able to chase somebody down and then say, I was in fear for my life.
Sure.
Because now you're running into danger.
It's one of those situations where you bite off more than you can chew and you pull your pistol and shoot somebody, a la George Zimmerman.
Exactly.
And then the thing is there's where you don't have a duty to retreat. I think that's the big thing that makes it such an issue is this lack of duty to retreat.
Well, instead of the lack of duty to retreat, okay, if you're in your house and you're in a non-aggressive posture, you should not have to retreat.
No, but that's dictated by castle doctrine. That's a whole nother thing. Where somebody comes into your house, that's your castle, and you have every right to defend your castle.
Right.
That's another rule, law, all that other stuff completely.
If you're out on the street in front of your house and somebody jumps out of their car in an aggressive manner, looking to do you harm, you should not have to fire a warning shot or take a step back. What I'm saying is when that is not the case, when the case is that the person who is armed is the aggressor, when the person who is armed steps out into the street and tells you to stop and steps over to your car and is very aggressive and cusses you out, and makes you feel threatened, you know what I'm saying? That person is the one who should forfeit his Stand Your Ground protection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially if they're brandishing a weapon.
Yeah.
By just simply brandishing a weapon, you are now an increase of a threat.
Now you're an agitator. That's even more than being an aggressor. Now you're an agitator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're not using it as a deterrent. You're using it as an intimidation tool.
And I believe that most of the Stand Your Ground laws were steamrolled through legislation, and people didn't step back and think about a lot of the variables that will come into play. When they came up with the Stand Your Ground laws, they basically looked at it through a very primitive prism where the person is always going to be acting in their own protection and stopping themselves, preventing themselves from becoming a victim instead of being the aggressor up until the point of deadly force being used.
And I can tell you, because I was, part of a lot of different things back when this law was being passed in Florida, is there had already been the contrary opinion against the people that were really pushing the Stand Your Ground law. Is there were these questions about how do you say perceived threat? What does that mean? What does that legally mean? And then there was also the understanding that this would probably be a very racial thing, because there's this whole difficulty between races where, unfortunately, white people often perceive a threat from Black people. And so from the very get-go, when they were trying to pass this law, there was already an understanding that this was going to be an issue. Sure. But they pushed it through anyway, because the one lady, if I remember correctly, she was an older white lady that liked to drive around with her, I think, Colt 45, whatever it is, sitting on her lap while she was driving. So there was already this very, Wild West type of feel to this, this vigilante justice type feel to this law. So I think it just continued in that vein. I think it was well understood from the beginning that these were going to be issues, but it did not matter. That's the part that's so frustrating.
That's what I mean when I say it was steamrolled through legislation, and a reality of it is so many things are money driven. The NRA has deep pockets, and politicians all require money, and lobbyists are doing what they do, and it's just part of the machine. And one of the products of that machine, one of the results is stand your ground laws that bring about these type of situations.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is they're going to point to the fact that he was a shoplifter. They're going to point to the fact that presumably he committed a burglary. Just like, who is it? Michael Brown from Ferguson. You remember?
Yeah.
The one that had the issue with the cop. Okay.
Yeah.
He stole some cigars or some cigarettes is what some of the stories say, Well, what the hell is that? Stealing cigarettes now constitutes deadly force? That makes you a menace? Oh, he looked like a cigarette shoplifter, so I had to draw my pistol.
That's a capital offense. What are you talking about?
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And even the terminology, stand your ground. Okay, how do you establish your ground? I mean, because encroach, okay, now I'm standing my ground. But if I then I can stand my ground anywhere.
Right. I mean, look, on the moon, they put a flag down. Does that mean that anybody up on the moon now, that's our ground? I mean, there's a flag on the moon, so that means we have the right to defend the moon up and beyond the use of physical force, maybe deadly force if necessary. And what happens on a night when there's no moon? What happens then? Or a half a moon? Does it have to be a full moon? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And the sad part is that people are losing their lives over it.
Yes.
So there is the repercussions for this law are just, you can't fix it. There's no fixing a mistake in this.
No, there's not.
And they're not even addressing the issue about fixing it.
Right.
Mm-mm. Nope. They just keep trying to, blame the victim, blame the perpetrators, instead of looking at what the laws are and attempting to change those laws.
I mean, even though these guys are gun happy, and even with the fact that a lot of people do have that morbid kind of fantasy, they shoot guns all the time and they wonder, I wonder what it's like to shoot somebody. I wonder what it is to do this, do that. The bottom line is these guys lack the criminality to go out and just shoot somebody. When the laws put them in a position where they can do it, then it kind of seems that it motivates them to put themselves in harm's way so they can see what it's like. I mean, hell, the guy was a cop.
Yeah, now they become opportunists.
Right. The guy was a cop. He knew what it was like to drive around and enforce the law. And if they don't have that opportunity, they can always join the military. The military would be happy to send them somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To a land, to a country they can't pronounce, where they can be shot at and shoot people.
Yeah. And what's always interesting is where did Barry go?
There's Barry.
Yeah, it's weather.
Yeah, it's raining.
Gotcha.
Pretty good.
Gotcha.
Trained pretty good.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me that they keep trying to bring up that he's a police officer and that somehow gives him more rights. But like you had said, he's retired.
He's retired.
He has no police authority anymore. He has no badge. He doesn't collect a paycheck. Right. He's not an employee.
He collects a pension.
Yeah.
Hey, if he worked 25 years at the post office, would he still be walking around trying to deliver mail?
That would be nuts if he did.
How would I do federal charges?
Yeah, right. He'd be glad to be done with that job.
It's just so crazy.
I'd like to get his ass on here.
Knowing how like justified they feel that they are, you probably could.
Yeah, right.
I like the fact that it's like, I think it was his lawyer that released the video because he thought that would exonerate him.
Yeah.
Like, they just live in La La Land.
Speaking of guests, if anybody out there watching this show right now has a topic that they would like us to discuss, please submit that. Anybody watching who has a loved one who is incarcerated, if you have any questions or there are some issues with your loved one and his situation, please reach out. I would be more than happy, so would Barry, Michelle, and Rebus, to aid in any way that we can to help you get a better understanding of his situation. And if there's anything we can do to help steer you in the direction of resolution, we would all enjoy that as well. So please keep that in mind. And that's not just for this show, that's for every show, anytime. If we say something that sparks an interest or there's someone that you may want us to interview, please submit it, please.
Mm-hmm. And I think all of us pretty much, we took it upon ourselves to be advocates still for people that are still incarcerated.
Sure.
So like Robert said, if there's something that needs to be addressed, if there's an issue that arises in the prison system, that you're unsure how to proceed, visitation issues with grievances, issues with medical care,
yes.
All those different things, how to access those different resources. All of us are pretty familiar with the system and how to navigate the system.